Good morning, everyone. Happy Sabbath. Welcome to the Anthem community. So we're going to do something right now. I'm going to invite you to all stand up. So do it with me, and we're going to stand up together. Look to your right. Look to your left. If nobody's to your right or to your left, look behind you or in front of you. We're going to do something today. Meet one person new. One person, get to know their name, and if anything, find out their favorite season of the year. Break the ice that way. Get to know one person. We're going to put a timer on the clock.
In my Father we know that we can build our life on God. There's this beauty in the story we tell. Only we can tell it. The angels can't tell it. They can't shout out for God. That's something we must do. And so we invite you into a space of not just singing, but praying. Who else will tell the story of our lives and the ways God has loved us if we don't? Who else is worthy of that gift? And who else is worthy of our praise?
I am an instrument of exaltation, and I was born to lift your name above all names. You hear the melody of all creation, but there's a song of praise that only I can sing. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. You are the infinite God of the ages, yet you chose to make my heart your place. 'Cause you healed my brokenness, showed me your glory. So I have songs of thanks not even angels sing. 'Cause who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Oh, there's no one quite as worthy. And so we sing his name, we call him Lamb of God, anointed one, who was and is to come, seated on the throne above. Holy, holy, righteous one, who shed his blood. You prove to us the Father's love. Jesus Christ be lifted up. Holy, help me say, Lamb of God, anointed one, who was and is to come. You're seated on the throne. We call him holy, holy, righteous one, who shed his blood. You prove to us the Father's love. Jesus Christ be lifted up. 'Cause who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, it's only you, Jesus. There is no one, only you, Jesus. There is no one, only you, Jesus. 'Cause who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus.
So God, I pray as we sit through the sermon and hear you speak, we will remind ourselves that we get to tell the story of your love to the world around us. Thank you for all you do. I pray in your name, amen.
Yo, good morning and happy Sabbath, Anthem family. As you find your seats, my name is Kane.
And my name is David. Here at Loma Linda University Church, we are one church with two different expressions across 4 different services. And here at Anthem specifically, it's all about growing 21st century disciples and doing life together. So right now we're going to be moving into a time of giving. I'd like to invite the ushers to start moving forward and passing out the buckets. We got 3 ways to give. One, you can give cash in the buckets that the ushers are passing around right now. You can also tap your phone directly onto the side of the bucket where you see the little logo, and that's going to take you to a page to give. Or you can head on over to our website, anthemlomalinda.org. Just so you know, it costs about $380,000 to put on Anthem each year, but that really does change lives.
So your offering today helps us in so many ways, like our coffee ministry that happens every Saturday morning, or our future events, food distribution, or our 65 Plus Fall Festival that is coming up November 2nd.
Wait, the 65 Plus Fall Festival, what is that?
Good question, David. So 65 Plus Festival we're gonna have it November 2nd, 1 to 4 p.m. We're gonna create a space for our communities and just have a great time. The theme is carnival theme, so we have all of these booths with fun carnival games. We have cotton candy, we have popcorn, we have paint your pumpkin and bingo.
Oh.
Hey. So there's a couple of things. If you want to sign up to volunteer, go to anthemlomalinda.org and hit events and sign up for volunteer. If you know someone that is 65 and plus and that wants to come out and have a good time, go to our website as well or call UReach. All the information will be right above.
So we're excited to jump into part 4 of our sermon series, Love Your Neighbor Unless They Voted Wrong, with Pastor Randy.
Thank you for doing life together.
Loving my neighbor. Wow, that's a very deep question. But I think for me, it's just making people feel seen. You know, whether it's a simple hi or a simple hug, or just like acknowledging that they exist. I think for me, that's kind of what it is.
If someone calls you and asks for something, dropping everything and being there for them.
It's important to remember that this statement applies to everybody and not just people that you like. So
Your neighbor is genuinely everyone. And as Christians, we have such a beautiful opportunity to bring people closer to Christ, and that's everyone. Whether we agree on our outlook on life, whether we have the same denomination, everyone is my neighbor.
It's looking out for people around you, making sure that they're doing good, just building life together. These are some of my boys right here. These are the boys right here that make life worth it, so.
Good morning, Anthem. Hope you all are good this morning. I don't know when it's going to get cool and stay cool. We get cool and then we come back with more hot weather, but we'll see. It's great to be with you here this morning and have the opportunity to worship together. It was just a few hours before he would be crucified that Jesus spoke these words, recorded in John's Gospel, the 13th chapter, verses 34 and 35. He's gathered with the 12, soon to become 11 because of the departure of Judas Iscariot, in the upper room. And later in the evening, he says this, "A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another." Is that word still relevant to us today? Some 2,000 years later, is that still what Jesus would say? What if Jesus were here in 21st century Southern California? What if he knew us as a community, us as a church, us as a country? What might he say to his followers? Just imagine, if that were the case, that you're invited to lunch today at someone's house from here in Anthem. And so you go to lunch and there are Number of people there, some you know, some you don't. But there's Jesus as part of the invited guests. You sit down for lunch, blessing is given, you begin to eat. And a Republican sitting on one side of the table says, Jesus, you got to understand Donald Trump. I know he does some uncouth things, but he's trying to save the country. A Democrat immediately across the table speaks up and says, that's crazy. He's destroying the country. What he's doing is immoral. The Republican responds and says, immoral? Let me tell you what's immoral. What's immoral is being elected to protect a country and then having no borders. And the Republican, and suddenly somebody else jumps in and says, hey, hang on. Are we going to talk politics here? Because if we're talking politics here, I'm leaving. And then a rather quiet person says, Jesus, just come with me. We'll go out there into the garden and you can walk with me and talk with me and tell me that I am your own. We don't need all of this. What would Jesus say to that group of which you and I are a part? We're sitting at the table. Would he say this that he said to his disciples? Or is that now outmoded? Or were they such a strong, close, similar group that they from first century Palestine don't have anything to teach us 2,000 years later, a world away in 21st century America? Well, to get at an answer to that question, to try to understand what might be the case, we need to look at the people that were there. We need to consider the people that Jesus called. So we go to Luke's gospel for that. Luke chapter 6. We're going to read 4 or 5 verses here in Luke because they give us an insight into the call and the process that Jesus extended to these who would be gathered around him that night. We need to linger over it a bit. But to set the context, it's either late in the day or early in the evening when Jesus starts trekking up toward a mountaintop. Now, when you read that, you take it as kind of a geographical statement made by Luke, but it's not that. It's a theological statement because against the backdrop of the Old Testament, the mountaintop was where God revealed himself. So Jesus is going up to the mountaintop and he's going to pray. Luke is very interested in the prayer life of Jesus. More than the other 3 gospel writers, he gives us insight into Jesus' prayer life. He clues us into the fact that before major events, important moments, Jesus prayed. And he'll do that on this night. Luke 6, beginning with verse 12. One of those days, Jesus went out to a mountainside to pray and spent the night praying to God. When morning came, he called his disciples to him and chose 12 of them, whom he also designated apostles. Simon, whom he named Peter, his brother Andrew, James, John, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James the son of Alphaeus, Simon, who was called the Zealot, Judas, the son of James, and Judas Iscariot, who became a traitor. You ever wonder what Jesus prayed about? We're not sure because it's not always told. It is in John 17, that prayer that night when he prayed for his disciples and for us. It is in the Sermon on the Mount when he gave us what we often call the Lord's Prayer. But other than that, we're not given a lot of the content of Jesus' prayer. But this setting, this situation almost certainly tells us that he was praying about what was going to happen the next day. Because first of all, there were many crowds that followed him. A lot of curious looky-loos. And then there were disciples that followed him who were with him day in and day out. From that group of disciples, he was about to choose 12. And was about to say, these now will become my apostles. Disciples mean you follow Jesus. Apostles mean you are sent for Jesus. These 12 will become the foundation stones on which he will build this new humanity he is creating. So it's a key moment. Did he pray about them? Did he work his way through the names one at a time, praying for each one? Did he pray and say, Father, this is a rough bunch. They're from tough backgrounds. They're not really at a place spiritually where they can lead much of anything. So, Father, through the Spirit, you're going to have to work on them. You're going to have to change them, transform them. Did he say that? Did he pray? They're very different in many ways, different temperaments, different personalities, different attitudes, different styles. Father, through the Spirit, you're going to have to mold them, meld them. Did he say in his prayers, Father, they have very different ideas between them about what it means to live in the empire? They have very different politics in terms of how they approach what's happening here in this world today, Father. So somehow you're going to have to get through to them. Did he say those things? Did he just pray, change them, form them, reform them, transform them? New Testament scholar Grant Osborne writes this: this was an all-night prayer vigil, undoubtedly asking the Father's help in making the right choices and for blessing on the entire enterprise. This is the Father's choice as well as Jesus's, and it is a true turning point in the battle against evil. Unlike the standard rabbinic practice where disciples chose the rabbi they wished to study under, this decision is entirely God's. Jesus is carrying out his Father's will, and the events that follow in verses 13 to 16, that means those verses that outline who got chosen are the result of intense prayer and divine guidance. So the day comes, and he identifies the 12. I want to say 2 or 3 things about the list overall, and then I want to spend time on 3 names in the list. 3 names. So overall, there are 4 lists, just like this one, listing the apostles. They're in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and Acts. So they're in those 3 Gospels and in the book of Acts. In every one of those lists, Peter comes first. He's the headliner. He's the one that starts the list. He's the leader, the spokesperson, the most recognizable one among them. He will become a leader in the early part of the book of Acts. Secondly, there are 2 sets of brothers that are named right at the beginning. One, because Peter's one of those 2 sets. Peter and Andrew, and James and John. Those 2 sets of brothers are named first in every list, although the order differs just a bit. Then there are disciples in the list who apparently have 2 names, kind of like we might have different names, first and second names, who have 2 names. They're called one name in one place and another in another place, with some scholarly sleuthing to figure out who is who. For example, in this list, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and Acts, Bartholomew appears. But when you read the Gospel of John, the same person appears to be called Nathaniel. So maybe those are 2 names of the same person. Or take Peter himself, who heads the list. 3 names he's called by in the Gospel accounts and in the New Testament: Simon and Peter and Cephas, his Aramaic name. So you have a number of those who have different names in different lists. We don't know much about many in the list. We know pieces. Hasn't kept people from conjecturing, but we don't know a lot. About a few of them, we do know a fairly significant amount. But I want to center in on 3 of the names: Matthew the tax collector, Simon the zealot, and Judas Iscariot. Is there something that Jesus' choice of these 3 can tell us? Matthew the tax collector. I've been thinking, how can we create within us the same sense of revulsion that most of the people of Jesus' day felt toward tax collectors? I'm not sure we can duplicate that here, but maybe we can approach it by mentioning certain names. In American history, the name Benedict Arnold might do that. The time of the struggle for American independence, Benedict Arnold was an American who sold himself out to the British and who said, look, I will help you capture the most prized possession, the formidable fort called West Point. I will help you capture it. That will help you win this war. Ever since that day, Benedict Arnold has been thought of as a traitor.
Or what about Robert Hansen, much closer to our day and time? For 20 years in the FBI, he sold secrets, sold American classified secrets to the Soviets and then to the Russians. Did immeasurable damage to the American security forces. Story is told in a movie called Breach. Was sent to prison for life without the possibility of parole. What about Aldrich Ames, who for many years working inside the CIA slowly but surely divulged to the Soviets every agent in the Soviet Empire? We know of 10 who were captured and executed, and many others who were captured and went to prison because of Aldrich Ames. His is a made-for-TV movie called Traitor Within, also sentenced to life without parole. On each of those names, you would have to write the name traitor, traitor, traitor to his country. I suppose, had there been a thesaurus in the world of Jesus, and had you looked up traitor, one of the synonyms for traitor would have been tax collector. Because Matthew, as a tax collector, had sold himself out to the empire, to the occupying force who was crushing Palestine under its heavy boot. Collaborator, turncoat, traitor, most wanted nothing to do with tax collectors. And Jesus said, "Follow me." When his call story is told, he is called Levi. Levi Matthew. That's the first name. Second name is Simon. Not Simon Peter, another one of those disciples that had the same name, but this time Simon the Zealot. The Zealot. So what does that sobriquet, that nickname mean, the Zealot? Well, there are probably three different things it could have meant. The first thing that could have meant was that he was zealous for God. It's like we might say of a certain woman, we might say she really has a lot of zeal for God. I mean, every time the church doors open, there she is. She's at every prayer meeting praying. I heard she was going to start taking Greek so that she could read the New Testament in the original language. She's a zealous person for God. It might be used in that way, but almost certainly that's not what this refers to, because the term zealot was a loaded term in this particular era of Jewish history. Secondly, it could mean that Simon was a member of the Zealot party. The Zealot party was a party of freedom fighters, of revolutionaries. This is how New Testament scholar William Barclay describes them. Simon was a zealot, and the zealots were fanatical nationalists who were sworn to assassinate every traitor and every Roman they could. So maybe it's used in that sense, Simon the Zealot, that he's a member of this party. Almost certainly that has to do with why he is named this, but that's a bit too early. It won't be until the war, the revolt that happens some years later before the Zealot party really comes into its violent own. So a third way it might be understood. I read here from Eerdman's Bible Dictionary, Simon was one of the 12 disciples / apostles of Jesus. He was called the Zealot, different passages, or the Canaanian, an appellative based on the Hebrew and Aramaic kana, translated zealous. Zeal was a technical term widely used in Judaism of the Hellenistic period for a desire to preserve the purity of Judaism and the Jewish land, temple, and people, even at the cost of suffering or inflicting death. Simon has often been identified as a member of the Zealot party, active at the time of the Jewish revolt of AD 66 to 70, but it would be more accurate to say that he represented the form of Jewish piety that was later galvanized into revolt and that provided the pattern for those who called themselves zealots at the time of the revolt. In other words, that this zealot party that that was not only ready, but killed to rid themselves of the hated Romans later, was in its nascent form, its early form, its formative stages at this time. Simon the Zealot was almost certainly a member of that. That's almost certainly why he's called the Zealot, which says his heart was filled with hatred toward the Romans. And had he believed he could get away with it, even at that point, he would have probably slipped a knife between the ribs of the nearest Roman. Simon the Zealot. And Jesus says, "Follow me, Simon." Now, I got to stop there. I just tell you, I've got to stop there and ask a question. I mean, we are at lunch with Jesus, right? This afternoon's my one shot. I've got to stop there and ask a question. I got to say, Jesus, with all due respect, what are you thinking? What are you doing? With respect, that's crazy. You've got one over here who's collaborating with the empire, and you've got another over here that wants to murder them. I'm not the greatest leader by any stretch, but I know to be careful about who you get on your core team. And here you've got polar opposites politically. What about it, Jesus? Consider a third name. This is the name Judas Iscariot. Now, Luke is the only, every list puts Judas Iscariot at the end of the list for good reason. Every list, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and Acts. But Luke does something the other three don't do. Now, he doesn't appear in the Acts list because by then he has already betrayed Jesus and ended his life. But the other two lists don't do this, and that is Luke puts two Judases, the two Judases at the end. He says the last two, Judas, son of James, and Judas Iscariot, who later betrayed him. I mean, that's the time when you want any additional identifying information, because you don't want to walk around for the early years of the church saying, yeah, I'm Judas, not Iscariot, that's not me. No, I'm son of James, son of Judas, son of James. Let's just be really clear about that. That other guy, no, that's not me. So he identifies them. But he says, Judas Iscariot. Iscariot. I want to read to you the words of Grant Osborne, New Testament scholar, about that name. He says, the name Iscariot in Judas Iscariot means either man of Kerioth, a village 12 miles south of Hebron in Judea, or as a reference to the Sicarii, a group of assassins. Quite unlikely, and most scholars would agree with that, though it's not outside the realm of possibility. Or it could be an Aramaic term meaning the false one. Would certainly fit. The first is the most likely, where he was from. It designates his hometown in the same way that the Nazarene did for Jesus. Now, what's curious about that, and many scholars agree this is the most likely meaning, that it means the man from Kerioth. What's curious about that is that it makes Judas the only non-Galilean in the bunch. All the others were from Galilee. Now, Galilee, you have to understand, was viewed as a bit of a backwater district. That was out in the fields and the mountains, the hollers, as they say back in the southeast. And so people from there were viewed to be hot-headed, uneducated. They weren't the ones you turned to when you wanted wisdom or the qualities necessary for leadership. That's 11 of them. And Judas, man of Kerioth. Kerioth was in Judea, closer to Jerusalem. Jerusalem was the center of power. It was the center of economic, the center of political, the center of religious power. People from Jerusalem and Judea were typically more educated and more respected. That appears to be Judas. And if you read the story and read what happens through the Gospels, it bears that out. He becomes their treasurer, the man who holds the bag. People seem interested in what he has to say. And Jesus says, Judas, follow me. Wow. Now, Luke does something that we can't miss. Matthew and Mark don't do this with Judas. Luke does. So if you read Matthew, it says at the end of the list, Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. If you read Mark, his name appears at the end of the list, Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. But when you read Luke, this is what Luke says. And Judas Iscariot, who became a traitor. Who became a traitor. Leon Morris writes, all three Gospels finish with Judas Iscariot and mention his betrayal, but only Luke says that he became a traitor. Apparently, he was faithful at the beginning. It's curious, that word became. Greek word genomai. Genomai. It's interesting to read the many different places where it is used in the New Testament. Here's one of the places. It's used when the tempter comes to Jesus after he has spent 40 days fasting and he's now hungry. And the tempter comes to him and says, Jesus, these stones, which likely were many flat stones scattered about that resemble the flat bread that they ate and still eat, said, these stones around here, got to remind you of bread, don't they? I can hear your stomach growling from here. So Jesus, just transform these stones into bread. Remember the temptation? The technical way it's stated is take these stones and make them become genomai, bread. In other words, they are this, stones. Now you make them this, bread. They become genomai, bread. Something that changes, something that is transformed. That's what Luke is saying about Judas. He wasn't that way here, but he became that way by here. So the question is, what happened to Judas? With apparently a reasonably good start, where did he go astray? Well, we have to follow clues, scholarly sleuthing to try to figure out what happened. The picture that emerges is that you have a man who's very concerned about the money, is very concerned about the power, who helps himself to the funds that the disciples have to line his own pockets, and who, as it gets further in the movement of Jesus, becomes increasingly concerned about forcing Jesus to declare himself as a Messiah with political power. But he keeps following this Jesus. And he hears him say things like this list we just read, it is immediately followed by the Sermon on the Plain. You know what Jesus says in the Sermon on the Plain? He says, blessed are the poor. Blessed are those who weep. Love your enemies. And here's Judas. What kind of movement is this? And it continues. A woman breaks an alabaster jar of expensive perfume, anoints Jesus, and Judas is in the background saying, we could have used that money. Care for the poor that he's always talking about. And John adds the little statement, not that he cared for the poor. He had the bag. And then at the end of Luke's gospel, as we get toward the very weekend of the Passover when Jesus will be crucified, Luke says something very interesting. As the movement heads toward that destiny at Golgotha, as it becomes clear that the political power is now moving against Jesus, is going to end his life, Luke adds this little statement, Satan entered into him. Entered into him. And the die was cast. Now he would do what he thought could force Jesus to declare himself, or would disassociate himself, Judas, with that movement if it didn't go well. And Luke records Judas Iscariot, who became a traitor. Because he began to realize what Jesus would say at his trial was true. My kingdom is not of this world. If it were, my followers would fight. And apparently Judas wanted nothing to do with that kind of kingdom. Became a traitor. So 3 names. Matthew the tax collector, collaborating with the empire. Simon the zealot, willing to kill those in the empire. And Judas Iscariot, wanting to create an empire. And they're all at the table. And we sit at the table with Jesus, with Democrat and Republican, and the silent, and the outspoken, and the anger simmering beneath the surface. Wondering, is what you said to those men 2,000 years ago about loving each other, does that have any relevance in our day and time at all? Jesus says, well, look at who I called. He takes this disparate, divided, at times diabolically angry group and continues to work not just to change opinions, that seems rather unimportant to him, but to change hearts and attitudes so that they might love one another. It kind of cast a different light on all those little snippets throughout the Gospels that they fought about who was the greatest. You know, this is not a fight about my football team's better than yours. I'm better looking than you are. I'm stronger than... None of that kind of stuff. What the fights were almost certainly about was whose agenda is going to dominate. Are we going to sell out? Are we going to kill? Are we going to create our empire? And they fought, including up to just before the Last Supper, fighting about which would win. And Jesus looks at them and says, do you want to be known as my followers? Then love one another. This is not beautiful music, scent, flowers in Hawaii. I love that stuff, but that's not this. This is taking the sacrificial, hard steps to do what's in the best interest of the other person. Love one another. So my son Austin knew I was preaching this series. He's probably fasting by now. Knew I was preaching this series, and he sent me something from a podcast he had heard. It's what he texted me. On this podcast episode, the guest talked about his faith and how it has played such a big role in his life. And he said something that has stuck with me, Dad. This was it. You only truly love God as much as the person you love the least. You only truly love God as much as the person you love the least. Now, I had run across that thought before, but hadn't thought about it in a while, and it got me to thinking about some people in my life We're on the left, and we're on the right, and we're in leadership, and we're always angry. I read that. Wow. And then he added something I'd never thought of. You only truly love God as much as you love the person you love the least. In other words, the test of Christianity is not, do you love Jesus? Because Jesus is pretty lovable. The test of Christianity, he said, is, do you love Judas? So we're at that table eating. And Jesus says, love one another. You might want to consider Matthew, the tax collector, Simon, the zealot. But you might want to especially consider that the question for us today, this week, is not, do we love Jesus? The question truly is, do we love Judas?
And I invite you to really reflect on some of the beautiful themes of this message as we sing this last song, I'd Rather Have Jesus. Would we rather have Jesus if that means letting go of the way we feel about others that don't agree with us? Would we rather have Jesus if that means letting go of my ideals and my ideologies? And so I invite you to sing this again, not just as a song, but really a prayer and a commitment to the Lord. Let's sing this together. I'd rather have Jesus than silver or gold. I'd rather be his than have riches untold. I'd rather have Jesus than houses or lands. I'd rather be led by his nail-pierced hands than to be a king of a vast domain, or be held in sin's dread sway. I'd rather have Jesus than anything this world affords today. Than to be a king of a vast domain, or be held in sin's dread sway. I'd rather have Jesus than anything this world affords today. I'd rather have Jesus than anything this world affords today.
A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. As we go out today and live a life together, let's make sure that each one of us has a seat around the table for Judas, just as much as for Jesus. Let's see each other through the lens of love, through the lens of Jesus. Let's go out, live life together, and love. God bless you. Thank you for joining us for Anthem today. We'll have a prayer team in the front if you need something you need to lift up in community. And there's a white tent outside if this is a new space for you and you're interested about what this church and what this place, these people have to offer. Have a wonderful rest of your day, a good week. We hope to see you next time.